Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
G'day and welcome to a limited edition prom night special edition of Thrash and Treasure, the torture chamber musical comedy podcast that set out to juxtapose the roses of musical theatre with the ripped closes of heavy metal. And speaking of pose, I'm Aaron and I'm ready for my close-up Mr. DeMille, and I'm joined as usual via split screen by the reformed baker who bagged his last baguette because he rolled up his final coffee scroll. That's right, he no longer needs bread, but we need a shade of kamikaze kiwi. So we've got Evan the Metal Man. How's it going?
Very good.
God, I'm out of breath already.
I had to buy a loaf of bread today. I was really annoyed about it.
Really?
I've had free bread for 30 years.
Yeah, I know.
I had to buy a loaf. It was very annoying.
Welcome to the real world, mate, and welcome to the sunshine as well, because you obviously get to see daylight now and your skin is looking all the better for it. But anyways, guess what?
What?
We have another legendary diva in the studio today, and if you thought I was a nurse of puns, this queen is a doctor of letters, and you don't even know it, but I do. Because I know my ABCs, and this audaciously beautiful comedy drama extraordinaire first got her incredible journey kickstarted like many new Oldham performers, quickly rising straight to universal veneration with excitingly youthful zest and an appetite for elevated acting, allowing this acclaimed artist, biographer, choreographer, and dancer to sink her teeth in Anita the Dinner Ladies, before scooping up the EastEnders, yum, but not before she's served, in Wetty Hainthrop Investor Gates, which broke open and led this glamazon toward the River City New Street Law, where the heart is on the edge. But whether in the club or the slammer, this magnolia can hold the sunset, a doctor who is moving on and going the distance and coming up a thrash and treasure champ. So join you, me, and them hull raisers in raising a huge Aussie g'day and a yes queen to this accomplished author whose memoir, Remember Me, was written whilst recovering from the virus, because we are living in a pandemia world and she's an academia girl who has hit the big screen in Junk Hearts, Finding Fatima, Shadow Scan, plus pro shots of Richard 11, as well as the pro shot and movie versions of today's chosen Dragsicle, in which her ray of sunshine has shone brightly on the West End, UK and Los Angeles stages. So from LA to LV, you would need more than a little voice to name the countless stage credits where we've witnessed this wickedly wonderful woman wipe the wings with her warm yet otherworldly aura by dancing within walls with Anita and me in Greece, and Mamma Mia, it was a Midsummer Night's Dream girls' night out, and many more, plus a galaxy full of TV appearances as herself, including Loose Women, Countdown, Celebrity Best Home Cook, CBB's Bedtime Story, and many, many more. To say this legend's career is storied would be an understatement, just like these intros. So we welcome to the Torture Chamber a truly remarkable fixture of British television whose bright and beloved stint on Coronation Street helped propel our guest to the royally revered honour of Deputy Lieutenant of Greater Manchester, which means she can get you into all the coolest clubs in town. So bow down, mister, because if my name ain't Leon, well, it's not, but we're also not worthy to be joined by this soap star superstar, the seriously sensational Dr. Queen Shobna Gulati. Yes, welcome to the Torture Chamber. How are you going?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow.
That's been the longest of both intros that I've done so far.
I was going to say, I'm going to get a timer on that one.
I think I'm done now. I think we could just go home.
Yes, I
We've
think
done
so.
it.
That's it. And look, I didn't even get in a number of your recent projects. Oh my God, it's already so long. And I had been patting up myself on the back because I'd actually written it a few weeks ago, but just recently at, I think it was probably about 7 a.m. after working all night, I'd been editing an upcoming episode all night. And I lied down and I thought, can I write a sentence with the alphabet? Because you are a doctor of letters.
I am a doctor of letters. I'm also a doctor of the arts. I'm a triple doctor.
That was my performance art, and there's your letter of the alphabet of your career, which I don't know how I did that as I was drifting off to sleep. So that's my process.
It's amazing. Congratulations. I think you've got your own PhD there.
Thank you very much. That's again coming from you with this remarkable career that you have had and has obviously been non-stop since the pandemic has opened things up again. Have you found time to sleep since you have finished your tour recently?
Well, that comes hand in hand with when am I ever going to work again? Because of course, actors, as soon as they finish a job, they get stuck into how am I going to earn a living? How am I going to work again? Will anybody employ me again? So I have had some sleepless nights over, some self tapes where I've had recall after recall after recall, and some really exciting ones, and then to be pipped at the post at the end of it. So no, I haven't had much sleep. But it has its ups and downs, and I'm still at it. So I sent a self tape this morning, and on a wing and a prayer, as they say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't imagine. We had a guest on recently who sort of retired, I guess, from performing a number of years ago, and he sort of looks at the audition state now, what performers go through, and he thinks he couldn't do it. To film yourself and send it off, like even a performer who's gotten a script and learnt it and then goes in and does something like Coronation Street or Dinner Ladies, you're prepared for that. You've developed your character. Here you're self-taping at home, not knowing much, it must be a daunting process.
It is a very daunting process. It is because I think that when you're in a job, you've got the director, you've got the production team, you've got costume, you've got makeup, you've got everybody behind you making this character with you. And when you're at home, you've got your wardrobe, or my floordrobe as I call it, and you're picking up your clothes and thinking, well, this character might wear this. You don't know what the director's thinking. You don't know, actually. And some directors don't actually, even in an audition room, don't actually speak to you. So it is quite a lonesome process. I'm not sure what anybody really, really expects from an actor these days. Finished, polished performance, what, from self-tape in the living room to screen? I don't know. I don't know how one does it, but I've got to get through it. And this is my chosen profession, so I'll keep going. That's all I can do.
Yep.
I actually find it demeaning that they would still make, someone with a huge body of work you can just go and check out, still do self-tapes and audition. I mean, obviously, still got to audition, but, the self-taping process. Like,
was it Shelley Winters, right? Got asked to audition, and she went in and she said, "You want my audition?" And she slammed her Oscar on the table. "Here's my audition." And then it was something like, "You want my callback?" And she slammed her other Oscar on the table and said, and there was a bit of swearing in that. Also, I'm paraphrasing there, but
I think it is hard, but I think that I don't know. There must be some reason for it. I'm not sure what it is. But I just, I just go with the flow. I'm sure for some actors it's not quite like this. So if Shirley's been through it, then I think we're all on the same page, possibly.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry that my dog has just been to the vet today, and she's not actually supposed to be outside, but she's outside barking. So I need to go tell them to let her inside, because otherwise it's just going to be a barking dog the whole time. She
can't hear it.
She got desexed today, because she's obviously young. So
I can hear it. Yeah,
you can hear it. So, and it's just going to be distracting me. So I'm so sorry about this. They were supposed to have her in the laundry by now, but no.
No worries.
He's so organized.
Well, that's not our dog. I have no idea what dog that is. It must be my neighbor's, because she's in the laundry and I've just disturbed her. So she's going to be at the door waiting. Anyways, okay, I'm so sorry about that. We're going to have to put up with the dog barking, and it's going to be the neighbor's one. But anyways, okay, on with the show. You have just been on tour with Little Voice.
Yes.
Rise and Fall of Little Voice. And did you pick up any impersonations on the road? Because obviously you worked with Christina Bianco.
Yeah, with the amazing Christina Bianco. Yes, I picked up some impersonations of Christina.
Yep.
As she did of me. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it's really interesting to watch somebody like her work and to see how she tunes into people and tunes into sounds. I mean, it's such a skill. It's amazing. And I think what helped me on tour with Christina was that I have been able to now pick up accents better. That was never really one of my strong points, but it has become an easier task because she's given me some tools. So that's been really interesting.
I've been working on my Drew Barrymore for our listeners at home. It is getting better and better. But anyways, we will move on from Little Voice to big voices. Heavy metal. have you had any experience with heavy metal over the years?
So Led Zeppelin?
Yep.
My uncle used to listen to Led Zeppelin. So, I've got, a little bit in my head. All I can hear is, Mama says, by the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove. And that sits in my head.
That's some dog song.
I thought it was the Immigrants.
Yes.
song.
It's Black Dog, isn't it?
Black Dog. Yes, that's
Black
it.
Dog, sorry.
How did you get that wrong, Evan? And I got it right.
I'm not. They're a little before my time. I mean, yeah.
Well, that's no excuse.
I didn't have them on repeat.
That is absolutely no excuse.
That sits in my head rent free. It just sits in my head. So, I mean, that's my experience of metal. I suppose, would you say, I don't know, well, in my time, the people who listened to metal listened to Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Motorhead a little bit. That's it, really. I mean, I don't tend to listen to it very much, but I have listened. But I haven't listened to any new metal. I don't know whether that's different.
Oh, it all gets very different. Yeah, there's so many subgenres. It's mental. I find it you named mostly British metal, which is kind of cool.
Oh yes, and we had at one point, I don't know whether you'd class Status Quo as metal. Not really.
Sure, I mean,
Would you?
yeah, they're pioneers.
They're pioneers. So we had them visit Coronation Street when I was on Coronation Street back in the day, and they had a few cameo roles. And I have this album of my time on Corrie that when I left, they gave me a sort of a picture album, photograph album. And there's a great picture of me with the two band members from Status Quo in the Rover's Return. And I'm wearing big hoop earrings from the 70s. And it's it's very nostalgic and it feels like I'm in the band.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Very cool.
Oh, wow. Because you would have had a lot of guest stars come on that show.
Yeah.
Over the years. Yeah, actually, with it quite a while. But we've got a couple of questions on that. Now, this week, I chose the metal band or the album that we did because I went looking for glam bands that would match up with the musical.
Okay.
And I found one called the Quireboys. I'm like, okay, we'll just roll with that. I have no idea who they are. They're spelled Quire, so you could call them the Quireboys, I guess, but there is already a band called the Quireboys.
Yeah, no, okay, you're completely asked backwards there. They are called the Quireboys, and there is another band called the Quireboys.
Not in my head, mate. They're called the Quireboys.
And funnily enough, their original name was the Quireboys.
Aren't they from Newcastle or something?
I had it listed as London, as far as I know.
England. They're definitely English, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, very, very English. I think Spike is from Newcastle. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Jonathan Gray, who was the lead singer for many, many years.
All right. Well, before Evan, you step on any more of my jokes, I'm going to quickly read my review.
Okay.
It's a cold read. So here's my self-tape. When we first decided to do the Quireboys, I was a bit disappointed. Is there not any bands called the Single Bears, for crying out loud? 0 stars. But I guess they're here, they're queer, I'll get used to it. Anyway, upon first listening, the blues-infused opening track was familiar on account of spending so much time in my youth with tramps and thieves. But this sleazy track allowed lead singer Spike's reckless vocals to stretch out and play, if a little screamy. White Trash Blues reminded me of Evan, and just like Evan, I felt a slight tightening of the screws might have made for a slightly more unique song. No offense, mate. Can't Park Here. Oh, sorry. King of New York was the obligatory ballad. Sure. Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds You had interesting lyrics, though I had no idea what they are. Last Time was another ballad. Okay. But Debbie was a bop, a sleazy, sexist bop that made me take my pants off, which I left off for my favorite priest, Brother Louie, which was such a bop that I bopped Brother Louie all night. The rest of the album continued with the bluesy theme, which suits Spike's raspy voice and really settles in the country-infused Hates to Please, which could have been a top 40 hit in Queensland had this band mulleted their way to Australia. Overall, we have another rather easy mix of hard rock, blues, and country, but sadly, whilst this was enjoyable, sans the ballads, it never really took off and made me want to storm the Capitol. 3 stars. It was not bad, but it wasn't great. It really wasn't terrible. It was easy listening enough. There was bops, but no real punch. So I quite enjoyed it, yeah.
I agree. I'm sitting here going, it's not metal, and I disagree with your choice entirely.
I would describe it as more rock and blues. I didn't get that kind of metal vibe from it, no.
No, I certainly
No.
got the glam rock.
Yeah.
And his voice. I liked his voice.
But do you think glam rock is metal?
Well, we've covered it. It's heavy metal.
Yeah, because there's a fine line between glam rock and glam metal. So, you know,
and
it's
theatricality, the campness behind it. There's storytelling as well that's very steeped in metal, because the songs aren't necessarily boy meets girl or I love you or you broke up with me. You know, they're
yeah, it's come to the point that there are so many genres and so many subgenres that just if someone's good, then an influential or a pioneer, it's metal. You know, bugger it. It's all metal.
Yeah. And these guys are still going.
Yes, sort of.
Well, okay, when I say that, they recently kicked Spike out of the band, which means there's no original members still in the band. So are they still the Quireboys?
No, what's his name? Billy.
Was he in it originally?
Yeah, he's been on every album. The new singer, well, the guitarist who's become the lead singer is, where's the band member list? Yeah, he's Guy Griffin. There we go. Guy Griffin. Anyway, he's taken over singing. He apparently has performed on every album all the way through.
Oh, okay. I thought,
So,
okay.
Yeah, the current lineup is very different than what they started with, and they have got rid of Spike because of issues.
Yeah, it wasn't described at all. And he's tried to start another band, which reminds me of this whole Little River Band, that there's Little River Band going in America, but in Australia they have to call themselves LRB.
Yeah.
But in Australia is the original members. So it's kind of disheartening.
Same with here, the Quireboys would often call themselves the London Quireboys, so they differentiate themselves from the Australian Quireboys.
Like the West Coast Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. I understood in geek. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, I like, it was good, and it was familiar.
Yeah.
It was familiar without me knowing them, if it makes sense. Like, it was easy.
Yeah, again, I never actually heard of them. Like, I had no idea who these people were when you sent this link to me. And I'm like, Quireboys? Surely you mean, you know, the Australian Quireboys.
No, the Quireboys.
Yeah.
Now, Shobna, had they
Yes.
they charted in the UK? Had you heard of them before this?
No, I hadn't heard of them. And when I was thinking about what might match with, everybody's talking about Jamie and our, you know, LGBTQ plus messages that lie within the musical.
Yep.
I was thinking, like, when I first came into contact with Jamie, I kept thinking about David Bowie, actually, and that kind of glam rock type thing. And, you know, Jamie's makeup was very Bowie-esque, you know, it had those kind of, you know, associations with that. And I kept thinking about Freddie Mercury and Queen and everything to do with them and how he performed, Freddie Mercury performed, and then how Jamie comes into his own and, you know, becomes this kind of like icon. So in those ways, I didn't think of the band particularly. I just thought about people in sort of rock and metal who might be, you know, who might have that kind of, you know, David Bowie had that kind of like no gender type feel about him.
Very androgynous. Yeah.
Very androgynous. And, you know, and I didn't think of a band particularly, no. That was a very roundabout way of saying it. But yeah, I didn't think of a band particularly. You know, Elton John and all of that kind of that, you know, rock as opposed to metal, I suppose. Yeah. So in that way, I didn't think of a particular band, but I thought about people.
All the people you mentioned, there is that campness and that flamboyancy, that theatricality that blends all these genres together. That's why we juxtapose this genre, these genres against musical theatre, because here you have two seemingly different worlds, but they're really not, because the music in a lot of these bands that we do is very melodic, and it's storytelling, and it's, as I say, theatrical, and it's camp, and it's over the top, and it's and I think this band, maybe this album, if there's another album, maybe there's a more unique flavor to them. I don't know. I picked it at random.
It's funny you mentioned Bowie and Mercury and Jamie. And it's like the one common trend there is they're all so freaking skinny. They're like 5% body fat. I'm just envious. Like how is that possible?
Don't be. It's not nice. But I will say that it is on record that Broadway legend, 2-time Tony nominee Alison Fraser came on this show and said, "You know, you look like Freddie Mercury, Aaron." Oh, bless her heart. Bless her heart. Because I had a date that night and it put a spring in my step that day.
But yeah, I also had to listen to these guys for the first time. And the one that really stood out, I really like White Trash Blues. That was a great song.
Yeah. Well, I gave you a shout out, didn't I?
Yeah, I was like, that's the one song I really liked. But I did sort of randomly sample the songs around the place. And yeah, his Spike singing voice, it just doesn't change a huge amount. It's that, raspy, whispery type thing the whole way through.
But it's clean. It sounds like he's an actual singer. It doesn't sound like he's just some guy that walked into a pub and picked up a mic one day.
No, I'm not saying he can't sing. I'm just saying that there's not many voices there.
No, I'm saying there's technique there that, yes, versatility is what you're saying. Yes, I agree on that. But at least there is a professionalism behind it. Like you can tell that he's a singer.
I think I think if I remember rightly, didn't they have a song called I can't remember, Hey You, it's 1990s or something, if I remember. I'd left the country by then. I was living in France, but I think there was a song that they had, Hey You, and I think that was quite popular in England.
Yes, there it is. That was on the first album in 89. There we go.
I think it got into the top 40.
Yep. Number 14, apparently.
Yeah, so I have heard it. I mean, yeah, when you mentioned the Quireboys, I didn't realise that was them.
Yep.
I just remember a song called Hey You. Yeah, it does. Yeah, Spike, that kind of rings a bell, because when you are living in France and you listen to the radio, that people say the words differently. I remember something they said something about what was it? Who sang "Achy Breaky Heart"?
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah, Billy Ray Cyrus. And I remember listening to the radio in France and somebody going "Achy Blacky Out." Achy Blacky Out. So they probably did play "Hey You," but said the Quireboys differently, and I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
They're saying it phonetically or as they see it. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just things that stick in your head are quite interesting, aren't they? They just never go. You just there's loads of things that live rent free in my head.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and also phonetically, that's what I do on this show in saying band names. I say it as I see it, much to Evan's chagrin, or as I like to say it, chagrin, because that's how it's written.
So were you actually aware that the original name was Quireboys, or you just were being funny?
I looked it up. It said in parentheses the Quireboys, and I'm like, okay, that's obviously the pronunciation of it. They're being clever with their writing.
No, it was just the original name.
Oh, well, that's still what I'm going to call them.
Fair enough.
Why not? Yeah. So it was not an unsuccessful album, I don't think. Like, I enjoyed it, and I listened to it a lot. I listened to it while I was breeding dodos. May sound very weird to the initiated. I'm breeding them to kill Evan, which again may sound very weird to the uninitiated. It's in a video game, but sort of just for hours and hours listening to both albums on repeat. And yeah, there's some bops in there. Why didn't they ever make it here?
Because we already had a Quireboys, and touring was a nightmare, and they didn't want to. It's just confusing for the general public. They think the Quireboys is playing, and it's not. It's the Quireboys, so they have to call themselves the London Quireboys. They did offer, they did have the option to buy the name with the different spelling, but apparently the Australian ones wanted way too much money, and they just went, bugger it, we'll just call ourselves the London Quireboys instead, which they've then dropped. And because no one, but they're both still playing. Like the Australian Quireboys still pop up from time to time, and they've got some legendary songs like Run to Paradise and Boys Will Be Boys.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, was it Run to Paradise? But I didn't want to look an Australian.
Yeah,
I'd get deported to not know the song that they sang. All right, well, I guess. Oh, I know I didn't. Oh my God, out of
didn't
everything
write a
I've
segue.
prepared, I did not write segues. I'll have to think of something or just put it in that I didn't make it. Anyways, we're going to chuck to an ad break. We'll be back in a moment. G'day, listeners. Aaron here. Because Evan and I are stuck in Australia, we thought we better send a spy to Broadway to check out the shows for us. So here for today's review is our Broadway spy, Spencer.
Up next, we have Mr. Saturday Night, based off of Billy Crystal's 1992 film, Mr. Saturday Night. He is having the time of his life on stage. If you are a fan of Billy Crystal, go see that show. That's the simplest way to say it. If you're not a fan of Billy Crystal, you don't really need to see this show. This show is a vehicle for Billy Crystal, and he is fantastic in it. He's in his early 70s and is dancing, doing 8 shows a week. He doesn't have an understudy. He is having the time of his life and working his butt off. The show also stars Shoshana Bean. This is her first time originating a role on Broadway, and though it's a little underdeveloped, she is fantastic in her 2 songs. The score is by Jason Robert Brown, an amazing musical theater composer, and has composed a really good score for Billy Crystal to sing. When Billy Crystal sings it correctly, again, he is not a singer, but he is trying his best, and the audience is there for it. The musical itself would not exist if not for Billy Crystal. There's no other way to say that. But it also stars David Paymer, who played his brother in the original film, and seeing the 2 of them together, playing these same roles, 30 years later, it's really cool. Now, this show has some really cool designs. It implements a lot of screens. The band is 6 people. They are on stage, but they are not seen the entire time. They are behind the stage. They are seen at moments like where Buddy Young is performing in a comedy club, and like they're in tuxes and like the backing band. The lighting I love. Not expecting to walk out of that show being like, wow, the lighting is amazing, but I was blown away. And is this show for tourists or purists? This is a show for people who love Billy Crystal, so most likely tourists. If you don't like Billy Crystal's comedy, don't see this show. He wrote the book for the show, and it's probably the funniest book on Broadway this season. I really hope it wins that Tony. I think it deserves that Tony. It's so funny. He is so funny. And like I said, he doesn't have an understudy. Because again, if you're going to see the show, you're going to see him. And that is Mr. Saturday Night.
All right, we're listening to Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron. That's Evan, and we are joined by the sensational Shobna Gulati, which I'm absolutely thrilled because it has been a long time coming to have you on my show. Obviously, you've been so flat out busy traveling and then going to America and performing in LA. Were the audiences in Los Angeles different to London audiences? Because this is something we take interest in, how audiences act in different countries.
I think definitely. Well, I've had the benefit of being on tour in Britain where audiences react differently in Scotland, Wales, Ireland, England, and then regionally in the different regions from the regions of the North, Yorkshire and Lancashire, Humberside and all around Newcastle and everywhere to, the southern counties. I mean, it's just people, different communities react in different ways. In America, in LA, they were very, very earnest, I think. They were more earnest in the fact that they really, really wanted to get the Sheffield accent. They really, really wanted to get the idioms. They really, really wanted to understand that northern vibe that everybody's talking about Jamie has. So they were quite earnest. And then when they realised that they could just let their hair down and laugh, they did. My sister was in the audience one day and she fed back to me something that happened when I was making a crisp sandwich because, those in LA don't really eat carbs.
Right.
So the fact that I was making a crisp sandwich, she goes, the lady behind her was going, is she really putting potato chips on her, on between 2 slices of bread? I mean, honestly, it was really sort of, whoever was watching couldn't believe that I was going to eat potato chips in bread with butter.
A chip body, chip body is excellent, and especially hot chips.
I've had many a chip sandwich.
If I had hot chips, I would. If I'd come in with a bag of hot chips, I would definitely have made a hot chip sandwich. You are entirely right.
Yeah.
A loaf of bread and $2 worth of chips. Feed a family.
Yeah, I had it with my dinner tonight. I had a bread roll with my chips and my chicken, and I ended up putting chips and lots of salt in between my bread and butter, and I had a chip body because that's just what you do, people. Stop this whole carbs business. Goodness gracious me. Just get out and walk more. Anyways, sorry, that's terrible. I should not rant on this show. Anyways, we're going to move on to the musical because we are going to do. Everybody's talking about Jamie. You weren't in the original cast, but then when you took over, you were in the pro shot and then got chosen for the film, which is a very rare occurrence in this industry. So before we get onto that, Evan, we'll go through yours because there's an upcoming episode where you try to get through your review of The Music Man, and both me and the guest don't stop talking for 15 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
Only half my fault. Anyways, okay, so you do your review first.
Yeah, as usual, I approach these the same way. I listen to the music blind without knowing anything about it, and then I'll hunt down a pro shot and that kind of thing, do my research. So I've watched the pro shot. Well, initially the music, straight off the bat, and you don't even know it, I was just immediately going, yes, this is how you write a song for a musical. This is good songwriting. It's just well put together. It's well sung all the way through. Wall in My Head is just so moving. Honestly, I just fell in love with this thing straight away, just hearing the music. I just fell in love with it. Everybody talked about Jamie is a wonderful song, but I didn't really appreciate songs like My Boy until I saw the pro shot. Oh, incredible. If you're not got anyone with kids doesn't have a tear in their eye at the end of that, there's something wrong with them. Yeah, and again, I didn't understand the whole getting your armor on over the breach, my friends. I didn't understand that without actually seeing the pro shot.
Yeah, it's because you won't watch Drag Race. That's why.
Yeah, so I had no idea. But and then it's cool because you get to watch it again. Well, you get to watch it, and then it all makes sense. And it did. It all made sense. I then went and start doing my research, and I managed to watch the original documentary by the BBC. What was that, 2011? Because after watching the pro shot, it was like, I remember this story. I remember hearing it on the radio when the BBC obviously did it. It made the news. So yeah, I did know the story of Jamie. But musically, I love it. I absolutely love it. I was putting it on in the car, certainly Building a Wall was a hell of a... was it The Wall in My Head? Is a hell of a song, and it's so well sung. And again, I prefer the original cast recording over the re-recordings of the film. There's just something about original cast recordings. Just no one does it better than the original cast. Just in general, it's always the better version.
Well, you're saying that to someone who wasn't in the original cast ever. Please don't offend my guests.
And that's the only downside here is that Ray doesn't get a song.
Yes. Prom Night Special
Prom Night
Edition.
Special.
She gets a limited edition Prom Night Special, but unfortunately you don't get to hear me sing that in the original cast. You get another.
Oh, that's a bummer.
No, but we got to see it.
So actually your comments can't refer to me because I didn't sing in the movie.
Obviously, watching the original documentary to the musical, like there's a lot of, as Aaron puts it, artistic license going on. That's fine. You've got to tell a story. You've got to flesh it out. Flesh out the characters.
Different mediums, yeah.
Their backs, different medium. That's all good. But that character, as I said to Aaron earlier today, like when
Ray,
Jamie's mum's friend, I'm not sure because the names were changed.
Yes, in the documentary, the
her name's not Ray. I'm not sure what it is.
Lee, that's right.
Yeah. When she walks in and they're saying that they won't let him go to the prom, and she walks in and just says something like, "Oh, for sake, that burns my piss," and I just went, they nailed it. The character of Ray is just based on that, and you've absolutely nailed it. I loved it. Loved it from beginning to end, basically. Same as any other audience member, you just come away going, that kid's got balls, got massive balls.
Well, they kind of tucked in, but
they're a little tucked in. But to just go, this is what I'm going to do, and just follow through and do it. It's a hell of a story. It really is, and it's one that deserves to be told. And they've done it so well. The music is just so well put together. There's no useless songs, not useless songs. There's no fillers. Yeah, it's brilliant. I loved it.
Are you saying with drag queens there's no fillers? Sorry, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. Lip fillers, I'm talking about, Evan, because drag queens.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it.
Anyways,
Yeah, no, and your character of Ray is just excellent. It's absolutely nailed it. Out of all the things that they changed, it's a bit. I feel like they didn't need to. You were just Ray.
you.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. That was great. And it was the same in the film, because I did sit down and watch the film as well. And yeah, anytime you're on there, brought me back to the musical. Just that feel.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it couldn't have cast it any better, could they?
I don't know.
Simon Burke, who we've had on the show and a friend of the show, he was cast in the Australian version. It was pre-COVID and it never went ahead, and it still hasn't today.
What, he would have been Hugo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he was going to be any character, it would be Coco Chanel.
Loco Chanel.
Yeah, no, I love this. This is great.
Oh, good.
It's one of my favorites, definitely.
Really?
Now, I'm not just saying that in
No.
front of a guest. No, I really love it. I was immediately putting it on for the wife, going, listen to this. It's so good.
Well, you do say in an upcoming episode that this was one of the musicals that you had revisited.
Yeah, that I've been listening to. Like, I will just put on just because it's so good. Just gets you dancing right from the start. And you don't even know it. It's a head bopping bloody. I mean, I can't dance, but I'll try to dance to that.
Now, when you performed in Los Angeles, did you have the Westboro Baptist Church picket outside the theater?
No.
Oh, bugger. Oh, I love them. They're so crazy.
It went down really well. Nobody picketed. There was no demos. There was no nothing. It was wonderful. In fact, I think America found it more tame than perhaps they were expecting, because it's very British and it shows prejudice in a British conservative kind of way, which I think is very different from an American conservative kind of way. They didn't find it, whoever might be objecting to this kind of musical didn't find it necessary to come and pick it, because they didn't think Los Angeles actually loved it.
Yeah.
They loved our little British apologetic ways.
Oh, awesome.
But yet Rocky Horror will still get, a little gathering out the front with a few signs.
Yeah, that's why I ask about this. We have had guests on that their shows have been picketed along the way.
Interestingly enough, we weren't picketed, but I think perhaps that's to do with, the fact that we were, we are still in a pandemic. I don't know. Maybe those kinds of people don't understand Sheffield.
Don't think they understand humanity, to be honest. But anyways, you're right. This is very British, and Margaret's songs, her two songs, they have that. Well, the first one is very British in sound, but the second one sounds like ABBA. Am I alone in this, that it sounds like something ABBA could have sung?
I don't think so. I think that the reason why the songs resonate so well with everybody is that, Tom McRae, who wrote the piece, he also wrote the lyrics, and Dan Gillespie Sells did the music, and Jonathan Bottrell, who directed the piece. All three of those men got together, sat down, and they went on a retreat, and they made this happen. And they did it together, and I think that it brings all their experiences together, and I think there's a universality to it all. I suppose it sounds like ABBA. If I'm trying to think about that, it's to do with the universality of the songs that ABBA sings. I think it's more to do with story than it is to do with the sort of musical composition of it.
Yeah, but there is, you can definitely hear that British sound.
Yeah, see, it's funny you brought up Bowie earlier. I found in The Legend of Coco Chanel, I could hear a bit of Bowie in that. Just some of the keys. Yeah, just some little hints here and there. Nothing major, but it was just like, oh, that sounds like a Bowie song. I couldn't place it. It wasn't enough to place it.
And I will die on this hill, and society, you can cancel me for it, but I do think Loco Chanel or Hugo should be played by straight men. Sort of that blokey man that, that sort of type that get straight men that look like that. You sort of think like Jason Statham. Imagine if he could sing, imagine him playing. That would be hilarious. So that's what I think. That should be one role I reckon, that us gay people who have literally owned theater for 100+ years, we can let one role go to straight men. I think I'm willing to die on that hill. Now, speaking of the performers, Tamsin Carroll, I have seen a couple of times. I saw her in Oliver. What are we looking at? Maybe 2001. She played Nancy.
She was an excellent Miss Hedge, Tamsin. Absolutely excellent. She's a brilliant young woman and she's a brilliant actor and the most amazing singer.
She is, isn't she? I saw her as Sheila in Hair as well. 2003, I think it was.
Right.
God, it was nearly 20 years ago. Goodness me. And obviously she was in the Miss Saigon Pro Shot. Anyways, and also Daniel Jacob, but the world knows him as Vinegar Strokes from RuPaul's Drag Race UK. And it was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
So happy birthday to him. I was going to say, you old slag, but I thought he might be offended by that. But then I thought, no, he probably wouldn't be offended. But then I thought, no, because then I have to explain that I'm joking because I'm 37 and it's my turn next to turn 38. Like it's Twitter, and nuance is not picked up on Twitter at all. So I didn't want to offend the poor guy, but I do hope that he had a fabulous birthday. But also, this came at the same time as, well, about the same time as the prom in America, which is also about LGBTs not being allowed to go to the prom. Two very similar kind of stories, but very differently done. It's kind of like the Deep Impact and Armageddon of musicals. So took you a minute. But yeah, so do you think you'll go back into it if they ask you to come and do the Australian production, Shobna?
I will drop in and out of everybody's talking about Jamie. I do believe there's probably another tour next year, but I will probably sort of pick my venues to do the work if the producers will allow me to do that. So I probably do like a short stint rather than the whole tour, because I've spent my life on the road. I mean, I've just literally come away from doing 42 weeks on the road, and that's how many weeks in a year?
Yeah.
I kind of think to myself, this kind of traveling life that I've had ever since I was, a young woman, I can't really continue. I always really wanted to join the circus and run away like that. And I've probably had that kind of experience now. No, I think I'm done with it.
Fair enough too. Yeah, I've been saying recently I would have loved to be building sets, designing sets, that kind of thing, in theatre. And then I realised, hang on, I'd have to travel too. Like, I'd have to do the same schedule as everyone else. I'd never be home.
30 years of baking bread, then try that in one tour. Like, it's full on for them all. But
I like my bed too much.
I haven't seen the film yet, and I hadn't actually, before doing this, I hadn't watched all of the Pro Shot because I enjoyed the first half so much that I really just wanted to see it live. So now I've been forced to watch it. But when I watched the documentary, I didn't realize that the ending, I bawled my eyes out. Not to get emotional, but I've been on the floor, injured, unable to move while people stood around me and laughed. And I got stretchered out of that school while people watched and laughed. I didn't get that support as a child. So to see that there are communities out there that do that, I'm going to get emotional now because it was only a couple of hours ago that I watched that documentary and I was sitting there bawling my eyes out thinking, I'm going to screw my throat up and not be able to talk in this recording. But no, it did hit home because I've talked about it before in the Rocky Horror episode. As a 7-year-old child at school, I did that. I dressed up as the witch and the princess and the evil stepmom, and we did little fairy tale plays, and I'd be wearing dresses. And I'd get picked on, and it followed me for a lot of years. It followed me through 3 schools and a lot of violence. And then there was violence in other areas of my life. And I did not have a support network at all. So for any children out there who do feel like that or go through what Jamie goes through, know that keep at it and stick to yourself. Be stubborn. Be like me. Just be stubborn and keep your eyes focused on what you want in life.
I think it's a message for everybody. I don't think it's necessarily about being stubborn, though. I think it's about actually, what is it about? It's about, I mean, I know this sounds a bit corny, but it is about finding your authentic self. I mean, when Jamie tries to be something that he isn't, it's recognized by his friends and Pretty points it out. She says, just be you, whoever that is. Try and find that person, because when Jamie behaves in a manner that's pretty unkind and pretty awful, actually, you don't think, oh no, that's not how we want Jamie to be. Jamie has to realize who he is. And I think that's the journey for all of us. All of us need to find our voice and what we want. And all of that is really, really difficult. And I think, the prom musical, or, Dear Evan Hansen, or, everybody's talking about Jamie. They're all talking about the same thing. Indeed, the rise and fall of Little Voice, it was her finding her authentic voice within a sea of people who were just more interested in themselves or not interested in them. And I think we're all struggling right now, to be honest, as well, in this pandemic as well. We all need to find some solid pillars again. However we do that, well, we have to find it. We'll just see. I don't even know whether tomorrow I will do another stage job. I have no idea. I've just got to be where I am right now. So it's that kind of thing. It's kind of listening to yourself, but listening to the real voice in your head, isn't it? Because the walls in our head, we all build them, and then that's why that song is so resonant. This wall in my head, we all have that wall that we can't, we don't know how we can get over it ever. That's life, isn't it, boys?
Yeah. Well, that is one of those poignant songs that can apply to, pretty much everything. It's not just Jamie personally, but everyone can find something in that song in particular.
Yeah, you have a voice in your head, Evan, and it's me.
I'm building a wall to that voice.
Sorry, you built a wall to, how dare you block me out. Goodness gracious me. But anyways, I guess we can untuck and go to an ad break. Anyways, we'll be back after this. I thought of that one on the fly. Pun intended. G'day listeners, Aaron here. While you're topping up your coffees, did you know that you can support our show and go on a fantastically scary adventure at the same time? Go to www.thetonistantales.com/bookstore to grab your copy of The Toniston Tales, a darkly funny Aussie trilogy about a young boy who rescues injured animals in his spare time and the roller coaster ride he's taken on by a literal fish out of water. Written by me, the village idiot of Thrash and Treasure, you'll come to love Toniston Turnbull and the dozens of wacky characters that he meets along the way. And here is a sneak peek. After barely 3 hours of light sleep, Toniston Turnbull slowly opens his eyes, his body feeling heavier than it ever has before. Not from extra weight, from tiredness and stress. Polly sighs in the shadows behind him, the flame of the nearest barbed wire tiki torch tower having died down, but not out, while Toniston napped. "Are you awake?" Toniston whispers. "Oh, how can I sleep in this place?" Polly moans, turning onto her side and facing Toniston, who stays on his back, imagining obscure animal-esque shapes in the rusted tin roof above them, shadows faintly formed by the nearest dying torches. "We need to work out a way to get out of here," Toniston states the obvious. He whispers despite the fact the nearest shacks to their own are several meters away and the occupants presumably asleep, as most prisoners seem to be. "How? There's no fence to squeeze through or even climb," Polly replies, sitting up in bed and then stretching out her sore arms. The hairs stand on end from the slight chill in the air. "I don't know, but I think the whole fighting thing is a distraction." "You mean to distract the other prisoners when new ones arrive?" "No, I think that was just bad timing. Didn't you notice?" Toniston goes on to explain his theory. "That fight happened, everybody gathered around. I didn't see one person who wasn't watching, and then when I vomited, the only gate in this place closed shut." "What are you trying to say?" "I think something happened when everyone's back was turned." "Like what?" whispers Polly, her voice breaking up in fear. "I don't know. That's what we've got to find out." Toniston's brain starts working overtime, but it's strange that nobody seems to want to leave. They seem almost Happy. Definitely content. So, when's the next one of those stupid beatdowns? Toniston can't help but think Polly looks tough, almost evil in the shadows as she asks, I don't know, Toniston begins. But both teenagers are distracted by a crumbling noise in the distance. Hopping out of bed, Toniston joins Polly on her own, equally uncomfortable one, spotting a large, white package hovering close to the cave ceiling, behind it a shadowy figure. The package is lowered down, causing the teenagers themselves to lower as well, hoping not to be spotted by whom or what may be operating this obscure crane. Over a long, slow descent, the package is dropped to the ground. Polly keeps her eyes on it, but Toniston looks up immediately, spotting a large black shadow scurry away to God only knows where. Come, he whispers, as he quietly hops off her bed, slipping into his docks with bare feet. Polly follows his lead. Careful to keep watch on all directions, the teenagers swiftly sneak over to the white package, their hearts beating an almost tribal jam in perfect harmony, and stopping in their tracks as the sudden realization of what lies before them sinks in. A woman, seemingly in her early 20s, wrapped up in bandages from the neck down. No, not bandages. Is that spiderweb? Polly asks, completely mortified at the prospect. Grab your copy of The Toniston Tales from thetoniston.com/bookstore today. Hooroo! Alright, you're listening to Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, that's Evan, and we are joined by the legendary Shobna Gulati, who audiences around the world would know as Sunita from Coronation Street. Now, while we're still on drag queens, do you have a drag king name?
Do you know, that's a really odd question, because I think I would have a drag queen name, not a drag king name.
What would your drag queen name be then?
I think my nickname is Shabley.
Yeah.
Though I have toyed with, are you ready? Catherine's Eaton-Jones.
That is awesome. I love a 3-name pun. I really do. And Evan, your drag king name would be John Travolting.
Fair enough. Yeah, I should have thought of a drag queen name. I'm only just discovering that there's such a thing as a drag king.
Well, yeah, of course there is. Gender bending has
What do you mean, of course there is? It never even crossed my mind that that's a thing.
Well, that's your ignorance.
Yeah, I was a drag king in Manchester Pride a few years back. I did dress up as a drag king for Manchester Pride, but I think on reflection now, I'd like to be a drag queen. Yeah. I think it would be great to do a celebrity drag race actually and be a drag queen. I'd love that.
Yeah. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink to any of our listeners out there who may work on the shows. You know who to cast next time, because obviously they're in a season at the moment. And I may have to cut this out, but former guest been on this show is in the current season of Celebrity Drag Race. So if that's been revealed, that can stay in the episode. If that hasn't been revealed, we have to cut that out because obviously they're not revealing who they are. And I don't know why aren't they revealing? They're like, it's not a guessing game, but we're not going to reveal who they are.
I don't know. I think maybe that because I don't know why people want to do that. It's quite nice to do things anonymously. You know, I really enjoy things like Masked Singer and Masked Dancer because I think it's quite interesting because then, you know, we don't have to go on the celebrity journey or the contestant's journey. We can just enjoy the actual art form of either dressing up and dancing or dressing up and singing or being a drag queen, you know, without having to have all the baggage of celebrity, if that makes sense. I really enjoy that. There is something to that. So I wondered whether it was the same sort of premise that we can just get involved in the art form then.
Yeah. Who would your Snatch Game character be?
My Snatch Game character would probably be let me think about this. Oh, I've not thought about this. Now you're asking me. Yeah, I think it would be Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher? Yep, awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, okay, we'll move on from the fun stuff. I've got a serious question now. What do you look for in order to trust a director or even a co-star? So when you go for a job, what are you looking for?
Well, I think there's two different things for co-star, and then there's a different thing for a director. So with the director, you want to feel safe in the room. You want to feel like they have got your back, and they've got the back of the story, and that they are keen on team playing. So, that they are keen on all of those things, and that they are as open as you are in the room to, and also being open to receive ideas and give offers and suggestions. It's a two-way process, and so I think that would be a lovely thing. It often doesn't happen, but when it does, it works like a dream. I also would expect a director to be able to take command of the space as well, and and make sure that any egos were well kept out of the room.
Because obviously this is an industry that is filled with ego, and they're of all varying shapes and sizes.
Yeah,
basically, and it's a minefield.
it is a minefield. It is a minefield. I think it is a very difficult profession, and I think that so many people have opinions on your profession as an actor, or what you do, or how much money you might earn or not earn. They don't really know what it's like. But it's not. I don't think I save lives or anything, but I work bloody hard, and I think I can bring a lot of joy and peace to people, and that's something I can do. But as I said, I don't do anything more than that in life. I just try and do my best, like everybody else does in their job. I can't be pedestaled in any way, shape, or form. That's not ever what I ask for, and it's not ever what I've thought. It's not something that I seek either. So I think co-stars are very different. You would expect your co-star to have respect for you as you have respect for them, and you'd expect that you would work in a room with dignity.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I ask for. It doesn't often happen, but that's what I ask for.
Which I know a certain actor recently had something to say about intimacy coordinators, and it didn't go down well.
No, they're very, very important in my book, because you need a fight director. You don't shoot people or stab people when you're fighting on set.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen, does it? Because you have somebody choreographing that.
Yeah.
So the same should be for any intimate scenes between men and women, men and men, women and women. You should have that, because boundaries need to be respected. It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not real. The key is to tell the story and for people to believe that it's real, but it's not real. So that is the reality of it. I think we should. I think that whoever said that, whenever he said it, he said something that the actress was up for anything. Excuse me?
Yeah, that she'd done cabaret, so therefore she's up for anything. Like, made the presumption about her, which is kind of gross.
I thought the presumption was kind of gross. So I just think, well, I responded to that because, I've been in this profession now for 35 years, and I do, sometimes it's not easy, and sometimes people cross your boundaries, and that should not happen. And now we have intimacy coordinators. We didn't. This has not always happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now people are trained to do that. I mean, I've been a choreographer, so I've choreographed closeness and dance before, and it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. I had to choreograph a love scene, so I suppose in a way, back in the day, I was an intimacy coordinator. But you have to be very respectful of the actors that you're working with, and the story that you're telling. And I think it can be extremely beautiful when it is choreographed. Choreographed to look like reality is a superb skill.
Skill, yeah. Well, that's it. Now, acting is meant to be a skill.
Yeah.
And if your reality looks like a choreographed sex scene, you're doing well.
You're doing well, yeah. And you're well, because exactly. I've never known my own sex scenes to be quite like that. But, well, that's when I used to have it. Anyway,
That's a whole other podcast.
it's a whole nother podcast. But I feel like that you learn your lines, you take direction, you stand in particular spots, you decide how your character is to move and breathe and do all of those things. So why can't you why can't you be choreographed within that character to how that character then has, a sexual relationship with somebody or a fighting relationship with somebody? I don't understand where that came from.
No, I don't either. And especially since there is a very, very clear disparity in how women are shown on film compared to men, who will always be covered up or slightly blurred, or there's always sort of the blanket over their lap, or, they get up and there's a pot plant covering over, but the women are not given that respect. So
I tell you what I watched last night, and it was really strange to watch it. I watched Internal Affairs, and then there's a lot of sex scenes in that. And I just, it occurred to me at that point, whenever it was made in the 90s or the sort of late 80s, early 90s. I mean, was there intimacy coordination then? Who knows? But and then that, what that character said came back into my head, and I just thought, oh, flipping heck, I don't know. I want it to be a fairer space for men and women on set. I really do.
and look, everyone should want that.
Yeah, and I think all of us require dignity at work, and that's what that's my phrase at the moment that's living in my head. Dignity at work.
And look, and this is a job where, quite frankly, there's often in situations where there is a bit of indignity, like someone might be naked in mud and they're being, I don't know, screamed at or chased by someone with a knife or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's situations where you're not normally in this situation in your daily life. So there's already a level of indignity in stepping out of yourself and into a character who is put through the ringer, all sorts of situations that aren't in your control.
As I said, actors, every job needs, we all need protection. We all need, if something strange happens, we all need a kind of structure at work where we can speak to people about this. There needs to be some sort of level of, if you have a grievance, how do you talk about that? And then how do you come to terms with some of the characters that you do portray? It does get in your head. Of course it gets in your head because you're playing these parts. And it's really, really, really difficult to separate yourself. But then, as actors, you must realise that it is a technical thing and it's a skill and it's what you do as opposed to who you are. I have to really remind myself of that, every day. These are characters I step into the shoes of. I am not that person. But you have to find in order to find a sort of, as one of the directors of Everybody's Talking About Jamie always says, and this is one of he said, Jonathan Buttrell, you have to live the life of that character. And I have to see that. And that's it, if as long as you're living the life of that character on stage, on film, on radio, on TV, whilst you're doing that character, that is it. I do have a problem with words like, oh, what's the truth of this character? Because who knows what the truth is anyway, ever.
Yeah, I was going to ask a guest once, what does this mean? What's the truth in a character? Because what does that mean?
Yeah, well, I don't know what it means because, we as human beings hide from the truth all the time. So how the character would know what their truth is, I have no idea.
Like, the goal of an actor is to make them feel as real as possible, but they are fictional characters. So finding what truth?
Exactly. And as I said, we spend all our lives searching for our own. So flipping out.
Yeah.
That's something that nobody will ever find.
I don't think so. Maybe Daniel Day-Lewis. I don't know.
I don't see, but Daniel Day-Lewis, in his approach to it was to find, the life of that character. So he did a lot of methodology in order to do that. I think, those big words like truth and authentic portrayal. I think what you're looking for is an authenticity. And, that character, who Ray is because you've met Ray.
Yeah.
Ray is not me. But I've met Ray and I know a Ray, or I've met people like Ray. Ray is a combination of loads of people I know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And bits of myself. What I find extraordinary about the characters I've been playing recently is that, I've been playing these kind of sex crazed women. And I think it's really funny because, I'm postmenopausal and live in a little cottage in the woods. Do you know what I mean? I'm just kind of like, who are these women? I don't know who they are.
All that popped into my head was that, like, with you're talking about finding truth and living the characters and that kind of thing. You've ever had to play a character you just thoroughly despised?
Yeah.
You just like, this person is not, it's not a good person. I don't like.
In the Rise and Fall of Little Voice, I play Little Voice's mum, who's extremely narcissistic. She's a narcissist. She's a drunk. She's desperate. I had to find within her, something about her that I liked in order to find the poignancy of why she's like that. Do you know what I mean? There's no explanation of why she's like that. There are some clues, but most of the time, every character doesn't like her. So that when they speak about her, they're not complimentary about her. So the only times that I had to find her, why I thought as an actor, I need to find something about her that I like, besides the wickedness and the nastiness and all of that. And that is great to play, but it's not easy to play, if that makes any sense. So I, in my process, lol, I sound like an actor. In my process, I needed to find something I liked about her in order to find her humanity.
Yeah, that's something we hear a lot with villains, people who play villains. I think Michael Cerverus said it.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to find something. I mean, there's all sorts of methodologies of doing that, and there's all sorts of ways of doing that, and there's also sorts of techniques of doing that. But I just think, yeah, it's interesting. Even nice characters. I mean, flipping heck, I've only mostly played nice people.
You have. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
pretty
agree.
much. And I kind of think to myself, well, I'm not particularly very nice.
Yeah.
So I can.
That's not
I
true.
can be.
I didn't mean to say yep. I sort of that polite yep that you say in a conversation. It just came out. I'm like, hang on, no, I didn't mean to say that. I'm sure that's not true, Shobna. Really, you came on our show.
We're all human beings, aren't we? So it's
true.
just kind of, we're all fallible. So I just feel like, some of the characters, saint or sinner, women's particularly, are either saints or sinners.
Yeah.
This is the way it is. These are the characters, these stereotypes that we often find ourselves in as we grow older as women as well. It's kind of like, you're the best friend, or you're the mum. Are you a saint or are you a sinner? Because, it depends who's writing the women as well. And, that's really interesting. I think now I'm in the mum and grandma category, because in Hull Raises I'm a mum and a grandma. So it's kind of, but she's really interesting because she subverts all the stereotypes of what that is, and written by a woman, and also about women. So that's interesting. I find her really fascinating as a character to play. Yeah, it is interesting. All I really enjoy is, I really enjoy being an actor, because it gives me however much time not to be in myself, in my world, but I can just step into somebody else's for a little while, and that gives me respite. Whether that world of the other person is horrible or nice, or a mixture of the both of them, that's why I really like it. I just find it a very sort of comforting and safe space. Because in the real world, your own life is so, it can be so bloody difficult, to use a very Britishism.
Yeah. Well, just on that sort of playing villains, I did have another question, but I'll move over to this one. My first episode of Coronation Street, because it hadn't aired on Australian TV for quite a while, and it came on our cable. And I decided one random day in the mid 2000s to watch Corrie. Very excited to check out this show because I loved Neighbours. My very first episode was Emily being beaten by Richard Hillman.
Oh,
Yes, my jaw dropped. I'm like, what am I watching, for crying out loud? One woman's just been killed and the other one's being beaten, or one got beaten, and then this Maxine Peacock, I think it was, got killed by him. And that was like, whoa, what are you doing over there on your television? Is this some daytime TV or what?
it wasn't Maxine Peake who'd got killed. It was a character called Maxine, played by Tracy Shaw.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Yes, that Maxine Peake is an actress, isn't she?
Yeah, correct.
That's me to a T, getting people mixed up with characters that are not related to each other. They're just similarly named. Yeah, so that was mind blown. I could not believe it, because it wasn't just, he did not just attack this old lady, Evan. He whacked her with a crowbar on the back of the head while she innocently sat there watching the TV. And I'm like, this dear old lady.
Ooh.
It's horrific. It's horrific. But you see, these things happen in life. And that, it was horrific to sort of have it, on a, the most popular soap opera of its time at that time, in the world, and you're watching it, but the thing that soap opera does so well, especially in England, is it takes the issues, it takes what happens, it takes people on these journeys. It, of course, sometimes it exaggerates things, obviously for drama purposes, but at the same time, this is, that could have happened. That could have happened anywhere. The terrible things happen in communities. And recently we've had a shooting of a 9-year-old child in Liverpool. This happens in life, people think, we're turning on soap opera and it's so far-fetched. It's not. I mean, it's extraordinary and devastating what people can do to each other.
Yep. Oh, tell me about it.
Deeply sad.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was so shocking, because you're absolutely right. That thing happens all the time. But then the other soaps that were on, like Passions, I love. That's probably my favorite soap of all time. Passions. Stop laughing, Evan. How dare you laugh? Oh my God, I'm so offended with you right now. Anyways,
I'm amazed that I know what the show is.
Good. Anyways, that was quite dramatic in terms of people being really nasty to each other and stuff like that. But like Home and Away and Neighbours in Australia and Days of Our Lives and all that, they're all pretty tame compared to this one episode that was the first episode I happened to tune in. This innocent old Emily Bishop.
Yeah, I was going to say, last time I tuned into Neighbours, which was a very long time ago, they weren't beating people in the head with tire irons.
No. And it was quite a shock. Like, this was quite, I don't want to use the term gritty, but it kind of was for what is essentially a soap opera. Yeah.
Coronation Street has always been gritty. If you go back right back to its origins, you had some pretty, big scenes between Ken Barlow and Mike Baldwin where they beat each other up, and all sorts. It was very much, it is a kitchen sink drama, and it still has that, quality about it. Obviously things have changed now with, streaming channels and everything. It's not like it was where you tune into a nightly episode. You now can, we have the power to watch what we want. So it's very different, Before, television had power over us, and now we've got that over television, if you like, because it's really our choice as opposed to what is programmed for us. We can decide whether we want to watch it or not. And I think back in those days, I obviously was on Corrie at that time as well, before the streaming channels and before that ability to stream what you wanted happened. So, interestingly enough, I saw the actor who plays Richard Hillman, Brian.
Yeah.
Brian Capron. I saw him. We were doing The Rise and Fall of Little Voice in Brighton. Brian lives around there, so he came to watch it. and yeah, we caught up. We had some lunch together and talked about the days where we were in people's living rooms, where our fictional characters sort of bled into our real life. Because people would actually think we are those people.
Yeah, I've heard this a bit from soap actors. Yeah.
Yeah, and how then that would impact our real lives, and it really did impact our real lives, And to this day, my character Sunita is still in the memory. I mean, it's testament. I always say to Brian, it's testament to how well we played our characters, because, if we live on in their memories, even though it's been 15, 20 years since we've left, it's kind of over 15 years since we left with Brian and then with myself. It's kind of like it's testament to what we did as those characters that people still remember. But at the time, in the goldfish bowl of Coronation Street at that time, it was really, really tough to actually live a life outside of the street.
I can imagine. Are you doing a 2.5-hour movie every week? So
yeah, you are. And then that 2.5-hour movie comes into the living room, and you switch the channel and you're on. You don't switch the channel and then switch to another 60 million that you can switch on to. But if there's only a five channel television set, that's all you're getting.
that's it.
That was choice.
That was choice.
Dude, growing up in New Zealand, we had 2 channels, Channel 1 and Channel 2. We're really imaginative.
I really, really didn't know you had TV in New Zealand.
Nice.
Just got a couple more questions, because obviously we did start late and we're running long. Now, what is left for you to conquer in the arts? Because Evan and I are both flabbergasted at what you have accomplished.
I like painting.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I do. I like making art. I mean, I don't, whether it's painting or making things. I'm a maker. So I like to make things, and I make sort of bits of work, whether they're sort of 3-dimensional or just painting. I quite like it.
Yeah.
Or drawing. I haven't really focused on that, but it's something that I used to do a lot when I was a child and a young woman, and then it kind of fell away. But it's back. It's back.
Awesome.
It's back,
Yeah.
and I've started again. So that yeah.
Nice. Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to have a painting on the go when you're traveling.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yeah. The drying times of proper oils are ridiculous.
Well, I do like mixed media, working with different things like textiles and paint and oil and watercolor and sketching. I like it. I just do like it. So I just, that kind of thing. I sew as well, which is, I don't machine sew, but I embroider. I know I just sound like I should really live in, never come out of my house. But yeah, I like to embroider. So we'll just see. We'll just see. I don't think I want to conquer it. I just would like to have time for a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been trying for months to convince Evan to team up with me and design outfits for drag queens, because he can sew and I can design.
I was eyeing off sewing machines the other day.
Oh,
This is
well,
very metal.
We're one step. You hear that, people? We are one step to making outrageous frocks for drag queens. So.
Oh, wow.
yes.
Well, you could perhaps make my Catherine Jones dress.
Yes, because ever since I was a child watching the Oscars, I would sit there and draw dresses and just outfits and gowns and stuff like that, and then doing costume design and stuff like that. But I got one more question. I don't know if Evan's got any, but now there is a bit of a lack of, I'll say, known female producers in theatre. I can name off the top of my head Sonia Friedman.
Nika Burns. Everybody's talking about Jamie. She's an amazing woman.
Well, that's not one I'm familiar with, so I deeply apologize to her. That's no devaluing her career.
Well, without Nika, I've got to say, without Nika, we wouldn't have everybody talking about Jamie, the movie, the West End.
Oh, really?
Because Nika came to Sheffield to watch it.
This is me with foot in mouth disease. I'm always putting my foot in it. But my question is, there is someone that that we both follow on Twitter that you've just worked with, who is a female producer in the UK, and I've been sort of following her career for the past year and a half or so. Katy Lipson, how kick-ass is she? Because what an amazing woman, what an amazing career she's having, that she's just nailing it, and time after time, show after show. So yes, that was my question. How kick-ass is Katy?
Yeah, Katie's a Manchester girl. She has a great love of musical. She has a great love of theatre. And, basically what Katie has achieved is she's put her money where her mouth is, and she's really, really gone for it. And, I admire how hardworking she is and how determined she is. And she's new. So may she continue to rise and rise well with the correct sort of teams behind her. She can really, really achieve.
Yeah, that's also like I've just sat watching, astounded in admiration of what she's achieved.
Katie has a really, authentic passion for theatre and music, and she has that absolute determination and single-mindedness. And I think that's what because obviously she produced The Rise and Fall of Little Voice, and she was one of the producers on that. That was co-produced, but she was one of them. And she has that kind of absolute love. I mean, when she watches it, you can see her, just come alive. And I think it's passion. And Nika has that, and Sonia has that. They have a real passion for the work, and they have behind that. I think there's that authenticity, and that determination to succeed because of that. It is, as we know, not an equal or level playing field for women in this industry. So, hats off to them.
No, which is why I've made a note of it, and you don't need the precedent set for you. Set the precedence yourself.
Well, I think that precedence comes from to set a precedence, you need to have the passion in the first place. And this is what they've got in buckets. So that's what I'm saying, that is what drives them is their passion. So that is the key to it, that's it. 35 years of doing this, it's not been easy. So you just kind of, I laugh, she laughs ruefully and rightfully over here, because I just kind of, there's days that I don't even want to get up or get out of bed because I just, I can't. But then there's something inside me, as I said, that just, is a necessity and need and want that I have within myself, and passion that that then will make me continue despite all the knockbacks. And as I said, for women, we haven't even touched on women of colour here, but it's even harder. I constantly have to prove myself, and I don't know quite what that's about, but I do know elements of it are to do with my heritage.
Well, that's officially a bit shit.
Yeah.
Yes, officially it's a bit shit, but you know what? Every time the shit hits the fan, I duck and move out of that room and try and walk into another one. I think what the world needs actually is a little bit of empathy and compassion. I think that we are so keen to speak our minds, and we're so keen to disagree, and we're so keen to go, oh no, I don't agree with you, and that your opinion is this and that and the other. That divides us, and I think what we need to look for now, given everything that's gone on, is something that unifies us. And I think that the deepest human condition of empathy and compassion, these are the things that we should sort of focus on, And I think you can disagree with somebody with empathy, and you can disagree with somebody with compassion. It doesn't have to be right or wrong.
No, well, that's it. Just in terms of producers and female producers, and when I think of it, I can't name a professional producer who is a person of color, let alone a woman of color.
Shonda Rhimes?
Sorry, in theater, specifically in theater. Yeah, because obviously we've got Tyler Perry. He's got his kingdom in Atlanta with his studio. It is a kingdom, Evan. Look it up.
Oh yeah, I know. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, it's incredible.
Yeah, so in theatre though, no, I can't think of it because growing up, I've always known names like Cameron McIntosh, John Frost, people like that. So
Yeah, I think it's difficult. It's difficult. I can't think of anybody except for Lynette Linton, who is at the Bush Theatre.
okay, yeah.
She runs that, and I came into contact with Lynette when she co-directed Richard II at the Globe, which was an all-female women of colour production, co-directed with Adjoa Andoh. Yeah, so essentially Adjoa and Lynette produced it for the Globe, and I was part of that team. So I'd say Lynette, and I'd say Indu Rubasingham, who's at these are women of colour that I would like to focus on, and she's at the Tricycle Theatre in Kilburn. I think it's called the Kiln now or something. It's a name change, I think. Yeah, it's called the Kiln. I was right. So that's run by Indu Rubasingham, and then you've got Lynette at the Bush Theatre.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think Lynette is an extraordinary young woman. She's going to be directing something at the National shortly. She's extraordinary. And she's just had her first foray into TV as a director, and she directed My Name is Leon.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so, I'd say that the army is growing, but not quick enough. I think what's really interesting about what you say, though, is that nobody knows about anybody until the internet was born.
Yeah, but there was geeks like me that would be at the library reading all the musical theatre books, and my mum would come home with, I got this book for you. It's like musicals A to Z and stuff like that.
Other than like recording and pausing credits, there was no other way to see who wrote this or who sung that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the internet really doesn't really, and I think that as human beings in general, we have a very short attention span. It depends whether you are geeky or not, really, but mostly you don't have the attention span to really, to watch the credits, to go back on them, to recognize who those people are, or who did that, because it's the next thing. You want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and things are so disposable now. So and right back to what Evan said, it doesn't matter what your CV is. Nobody gives a damn.
Hear that, Shelley Winters? We don't care about your 2 Oscars. No, we do, because you are Shelley Winters.
You see, that's the thing, if we are keeping the company of Shirley, then that's great, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's not just affecting, I can't just say, no, it's about my journey. It's about all our journeys. As I said, everybody wants to find the next big thing, whether that is a reinventing somebody from the past, or finding a new person, or concentrating on, what I think about my career is, I use the word innovative, young, upcoming all the time. And then, by then, I got really old, and then I thought, well, no, I can't be upcoming or innovative. Or can we, what am I? I'm still breaking through.
No, you are legendary.
Well, I don't know.
I have a scorecard. For all our guests. I am a snob about it, and I will own that, because the term legend means something. And Shobna, you have earned that status. You really have, from all your work and social work and academia and everything you have done. So,
well, that's really kind.
Take it and put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I will.
Shove that on your demo tape.
That's it.
I'll shove that on the next audition panel.
Yes, very good. Yes.
We don't even do demo tapes, do we? We send them digitally.
No,
yeah, we said.
No, that's it. But anyways, you have been an amazing guest. It has truly been such a thrill and an incredible honor to have you on the show. So quickly, where can people find you on the social medias?
You can find me at Shobna Gulati on Twitter and at Shobna Gulati on Instagram. And if you were a LinkedIn person, I'm not judging. I'm on there too.
A LinkedIn? Yeah, actually, I'm on that. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you both. Thank you.
To you at home, you take care, and we shall see you next time. Hooroo!
Ta-ra.
Thank you.
Like quicksand!